All right, welcome back to Chat with the Chief. I am Chief Rex Troche, and we have some very special guests joining us today, near and far. We are going international at the Sarasota Police Department. We have Western Australia Police Force Detective Senior Constable, it's a long title, Jamie Auhl. Did I say that right, Jamie?
You did, yep.
All right. Good day. I have a Western Australia Police Force Detective Senior Constable, Brandon Jeffries.
Good morning.
Good day. Is that what you said? Good morning? All right, that's
yeah,
right.
okay.
What do I know? And then I have DEA Tampa Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Mike Furgason, one of our partners that we have here, and we constantly collaborate together. So thanks for coming to the show, brother.
Oh, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Good day.
Good day.
Just want to be consistent. So, probably wondering why we have the Australian detectives here, constables. We do have an amazing partnership. And Mike, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
People listening, watching this, are probably wondering what the connection is with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and Australia. What is the relationship there?
First and foremost, DEA is a global organization, and one of our strongest partnerships is with the Western Australia Police Force. Albeit they're on the western side of Australia, and our agents are based mostly on the eastern side, we have a phenomenal partnership, and their leadership has decided to bring them here to learn what we do well, which is partner with our state and local partners, such as Sarasota Police Department, and bring those technologies and relationships back and how they can further their investigative capabilities for the citizens of Australia.
Okay. And then do we have like a satellite office over there, or can you tell us? Or maybe that's top secret?
No, it's not top secret. We don't have an office in Western Australia, but
Okay.
we do have agents that cover those areas from either Canberra or Sydney.
Okay, awesome. So we do have a bit of a footprint over
Yes.
there. All right. So let's start with you guys. Let's start with Jamie. Ladies first. Tell us about the Australian Police Department, what you do, what your role is over there.
Yeah, so we're from the State Police, so West Australian Police, we're on the obviously west side of the country. We have the largest jurisdiction to cover in the whole of Australia, but it also is the whole of the world as well. So I think the coastline, especially, it is over 7,500 miles of coastline, and then just under 1 million miles of actual land to cover. So we cover that whole entire jurisdiction. We have 9,000 officers, 7,000 of those are police officers, and we cover all the state-based criminal offences and investigations.
Okay. And so just because I don't even know the answer to this, so I'm really asking questions, I have no clue. Here in the U.S., we have county, we have sheriffs, we have city. We don't have like a state. We have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, but they play a different type of role. Is it in Australia, is it more like state police? Is that the role, or do you have municipalities like we do here?
No, so the West Australian Police, like Jamie said, covers our whole state.
Whole state, everything.
Yeah, correct. So we'll have our Australian Federal Police, which will cover the whole of Australia. And just like the DEA, they have footprints in different international countries. We'll then have different partnering federal agencies and then local city, state agencies. But as far as law enforcement goes and criminal investigations, in the state of Western Australia, it's us. It's West Australian Police.
Okay, so it's like federal and state,
Yeah.
and that's
Correct.
pretty much it.
Correct.
Yeah, we do have other parties, like the agencies, there's Border Force as well. But yeah, within the state, criminal investigations are conducted by us. So we have police officers that go out and do tasking on duty, detectives based out in the suburbs, but then we also have squads that specialise in certain areas such as drug distribution, trafficking, and all those investigations and murders, as well as other things like your child investigations, as well as what else is there? We've got all specialised areas such as mounted, TRG, which is our tactical response group. We've also got covert areas, as well as we basically have offices all over the state. So we have regional ones as well, so smaller police stations out in very remote parts of Western Australia.
But under pretty much one family.
The one
It
blanket,
is the
yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
so we do the whole entire jurisdiction of Western
Yeah.
Australia Police.
So you can move around pretty, a lot of
Basically,
jobs
yeah.
you could
Yeah.
do.
There's about 150 different stations throughout Western Australia. So some would be a 2-man station, others might be a bit larger, could be a 50-man station, just in different areas throughout the state.
And tell me about ranks How does that work? Like here we have officer, sergeant, lieutenant,
Sure.
captain. Some agencies have colonels and majors, and is it the same type of structure there?
Similar.
or-
So we start off as recruits in the academy. That's about 6 months in the academy for us, which is paid. After that, we'll get 18 months of probation, which will be constables. Constables will last 5 years until you get promoted to a first class constable, which is another 4 years. Senior constable, anything after 9, which is what Jamie and I are. And then after senior constable, it's an application process to promote further from that.
And what are the ranks after that? After senior constable?
It'll be sergeant, senior sergeant, inspector, superintendent, commander, assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, and then the commissioner.
So the commissioner's the top,
The
like
chief.
a superintendent
The
or a
chief.
chief of
Yeah.
police.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, that's so interesting. What do you see that the DEA brings you? Like, what value are you getting out of this partnership with the DEA?
So Jamie and I work in the primary, I guess, top level narcotics unit in the West Australian Police Force. Like Mike said, we do have similar cases, and we utilise DEA to achieve our goal in protecting Western Australia to combat the importation of drugs and the distribution or street level distribution of drugs as well. So anything that we can harness with the DEA and with their assistance, whether we are here just observing and then bringing it back to our state and my commissioner or our commissioner, and otherwise the partnerships, our ability to be here and build those partnerships, not just in Tampa but all throughout the US, and we've met people in Tampa who have worked across the globe, and they still have their connections over there. And obviously there are parts of the world which impact Western Australian as far as narcotics go more than others, so we look to harness those relationships more than anything.
And Mike, what do you think? Do you think the most important part of that connection is the interpersonal communication? Do you think it is the technology that you can support, or maybe they're supporting us? What do you find is really like the highest priority there?
I think it's going to be the relationships you build, because that's where the investigations began, and the ability to work from Australia to DEA in the U.S. or somewhere in Europe. The relationships are really what form and develop those cases. They get everything else gets in the way, policies get in the way, but when you have investigators putting their best foot forward, they can make a huge impact and save communities, save lives, and it's where they build those relationships that then go on to 20 and 30 years later, where they're now leaders and understand the impact of that relationship at the ground level.
I think law enforcement's law enforcement to me, right? Whether it's here in the city of Sarasota, it's in Tampa, it's at the federal level, it's in Australia. At the end of the day, you can strip us of all this technology, you can strip us of the computers, you can strip us of the drones, and it all boils down to communication and the ability to pick up that phone and be like, Jamie, I need some information. Let me tell you what I got going on. And that communication is just really invaluable. Yeah. It really is. So it's just amazing when you strip our jobs down. It really just comes down to relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all it is. So how long have you guys been here in the States?
So we're on a 3-month TDY. We've
right.
been here for 2 months currently, so we've got another month left.
Okay. Have you seen any differences on how we do business and how you all do business?
I think the biggest thing is that there are so many PDs, there are so many sheriff counties, as opposed to having that one single jurisdiction and policing agency. So I think that's the biggest thing that is the difference. But everyone seems to work really well in coming together, especially with the DEA and having the task force officers in there. Having them embedded in the office, it really does bring it closer. But I think as a whole, that's probably the single most outstanding thing that we do see as a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for years the United States has talked about maybe potentially creating a national police department. I mean, I know there's been conversations depending on what administration is in the White House, and I think that's a challenge. Like, I don't think we could do what you all did, only because in the different parts of the country, the state and the cities, yes, you have a police department and we carry a badge and a gun, but there's a culture within those cities that local government wants respected. And I don't think we could ever really change for that. I think it'd be super difficult in order to do. But I find it interesting that you see how well we work together. Like you see how much respect we have for Mike, right?
Yeah.
Like I respect Mike, Mike respects me, and we're working together, right? Egos are out the door. There is no ego. This cat has no ego. So
Yeah, and I think it's something that like DEA does really well. Is just like upholds those conversations like daily, pretty much. Like you need to reach out to a certain area, you'll call that PD, you'll call that sheriff's office. Like I've seen it live. Like it works really well.
I guess it's a little bit more isolated because we do run our own shop in such a large state. So when we do need to reach out, maybe people who are not too familiar with reaching out just won't have that basis for, like you guys do. You know, you guys would reach out every single day, if not, multiple times a week, whereas we would be a little bit more isolated in that and sort of have to build that connection again because it's been a couple months since, we've had a similar case or need to have a working relationship with this area of Australia or the world.
Yeah, and what I appreciate is the respect that we have for each other. It's not like, oh man, the DA is calling, they are such a pain. It's not like that. It's like, oh, the DA is calling, all right, they're our partner. All right, what's going on, brother? What can we do? How can we really get what you need? And we'll do whatever it takes. And it's been vice versa for us. So, and we have a lot of respect for this guy. What have you seen, conversely, what have you seen the similarities with how we do business here and how business is done in Australia? What are some of the similarities that you're like, we do it that way?
I think just like you said before, we strip it all down. We're all the same humans trying to enforce law and identify the detection of narcotics. The teamwork's massive within the task force, whether they are from Sarasota or different counties coming into the one agency and then piggybacking off everyone's strengths. And then if there is a weakness within the team, someone else's strength would oversee that and look to develop that. The ability to have someone like we said in Sarasota, there are people in our agency that are more familiar with different areas of the state or the city. So the similarities come in, I guess, people's experience and culture and how they grew up to then transfer into general law enforcement goals.
Are there times that you've walked into a different part of the city of Australia and yes, it's all under the same umbrella and you're just like, what is going on here? Why are we doing business this way? And maybe that's because maybe that person that's over that area has just been there so long. Have you ever experienced that?
So like into another state, they'll do stuff like slightly different and there's certain ways that do run it, but it's based on their environment. So like we are quite small, although it is a large state, we are quite small within our police force and the population that we have. You go over to Victoria, that's where Melbourne is, and it's just run so much more different. But you walk into the building and it's the blue family thing. So it's immediately like, okay, so we run business the same, but they do have like certain ways that they run investigations that is different. And you're like, why are you doing that? We do it this way. But like, it does attend, like it really does get that end result. And like having that sort of like, we are all law enforcement, it drives the same push really.
So the core concepts are always going to remain the same.
Yeah.
Like I could imagine that if you ever invited me to Australia,
come.
if you ever invited me to Australia, for a TDY, or
Exactly.
whatever that is. Now we know what that is, temporary duty, and put me in a car. At the end of the day, other than my accent obviously being noticeably different when I got there, I could probably do the basics, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why,
Yeah.
the ability to build relationships, get
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
It's still the core, but I would imagine there are some slight nuances.
Yeah, and I think it's just catered to, like I said before, like the environment. Like we are quite small, but like when you go over to the other states, like there's a lot more people, there's a lot more officers, and it's just like there is a lot more like cars, equipment. Like it is quite overwhelming. Like we're very isolated over in Western Australia, but it's definitely like law enforcement is law enforcement.
Right.
You always feel like you have that core value.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. Community policing. All right, we're big here in the city of Sarasota on community policing. Do you all do a form of community policing? Is there a component of community policing? And if so, what is it?
I guess,
Definitely. Go.
I guess we used to, day in, day out, as far as being on patrol, and that's our primary core is the community policing. When you do then transition to a specialised unit, that is obviously still present. There is no time where we are doing a search warrant or investigation or a different case where we're not trying to implement some sort of community positivity as well. So in as far as the state of Western Australia and its ability to, I guess, make our community trust the police and have that real good relationship together, there are certain areas which focus in the community aspect, but everyone knows the core values of community policing and tries to do that every single day.
Give me an example of community policing in Australia.
We do it a lot more in our regional towns. So our regional towns, the officers get a bit more time to engage with the community, and you do have that impact a lot more than you would in the city. So we would go out to schools, we do certain events with the youths out there, so like the kids that are just pretty much high school or around that sort of age. They'll go out and do special days. Like I know they've done like colour runs where they throw the colour like powders on and you run through and they end up all different colours. I think they do a lot of swimming and like different events like that. But we do the Royal Show every single year.
What is it?
The Royal Show.
Okay.
So Perth Royal Show, it's run September every single year, and we always have a police pavilion there, and it always floods. There's always people that come through. That's in the CBD, so that's like in our metropolitan area, and we always have some sort of exhibition. There's like police horses walking around, there's police officers there, we have a whole bunch of things on show. So in terms of educating, I suppose, the community in that sort of way, is we do that every single year, and I think it does win awards almost every year.
Yeah, definitely.
But the community stuff is it's more heavily driven out in like the regional towns.
Here, we do a lot of community policing. First off, we have a specific unit that engages specifically with the kids, and our goal is to ingratiate ourselves with the kids, help teach, coach, mentor, any opportunity that we have where we can take the uniform off and just wear regular clothes and have our officers engaged so that they understand that. I've said this before, we were not born in a certain place in the hospital specific for police officers, right? We weren't born with a holster, on our side. We're humans and we care about people, and you see that in our officers all the time. So we really try to attract them by, special trucks that we purchase, or engaging them with the video games, or we now have a STEM program, a science, technology, engineering, and math program that we do with the kids, and we've partnered with Monster Jam trucks, and they've come in and we do remote control races for an entire week, and they learn about the technology, the engineering, how to take care of these cars, the math. They get to paint their own cars, and then the kids that all participate all get to take the car home. These are very expensive cars, but they get to take it home, and that's because of our partnership with Ken Feld. And they brought this 18-wheeler with a monster truck that came out there and shook the ground. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So these are the kind of the partnerships that we do over here. So it's great to hear that in Australia you guys are doing very similar things, and that's important to you, because really that's at our core value. Does DEA do any like community policing? I know you guys have a different mission.
We do. We have the Red Ribbon program every October, which celebrates the unfortunate demise of Kiki Camarena, but it does bring education to kids throughout the United States. It's actually a global event if the regions take it on, and what I mean by a region are our offices in Bogota, Lima, Africa, Europe, Mexico, Central America. They'll take on programs where they do educate children as well. Right now we have an ongoing program throughout the United States called Operation Engage. Not only do we get into the schools, we engage our business partners. We also hold family summits for individuals or family members that have lost a loved one due to fentanyl overdose, to really make it awareness. I think yesterday was Fentanyl Awareness Day nationally, and that's one of the things, is to get out there and make the public aware of what's going on, because that it's not escaping anybody. Fentanyl is everywhere. It's being mass produced, and it's very far and few between where we can say that 2 to 3 degrees of separation where somebody hasn't been impacted by that. They haven't lost a loved one, or they haven't had somebody overdose, or a friend hasn't had somebody overdose.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody can say there's a 2 or 3 step connection. Jamie, are you seeing an issue with fentanyl in Australia?
We've only had a few seizures. That's generally some like uncut like powder kind of in smaller amounts as well. But otherwise, no, we don't really see fentanyl.
Okay. And Brandon, what are you seeing there? If we're not seeing fentanyl, what are we seeing?
As far as the state of WA, there's not a massive supply for opiates. pharmaceuticals. Our primary drug of choice would be methamphetamine and cocaine, MDMA, and on the lower scale, probably heroin. But we do still get significant seizures of those 4 food groups.
You don't see what we see.
Let the car in park! Put the car in park!
The crushed cars, the broken lives, the aftermath of one bad choice.
You can't take it back. My name is Officer Petron with the Sarasota Police Department Traffic Homicide Unit. Don't drink and drive.
Okay, and what's the state of marijuana where you're from? Is it legal, not legal, in certain amounts?
It's not legal. There are some medicinal.
They've started doing like the prescriptions, like
Yeah.
the oils and what have you, but obviously having the THC removed. But yeah, no, not legal. I don't think we see it as much as we used to.
No.
But yeah, not legal yet.
I think if you were to have our core work, I think methamphetamine would be the primary. You could deal with anyone in the state of Western Australia as far as criminality goes, and there'd be some separation for methamphetamine use.
Are you seeing where you're from the creation of meth or the receiving of meth? Are you receiving it from outside, or you guys see that it's actually being created where you're at?
Yeah,
or both?
when I first started my employment, which was about 12 years ago, there were a lot of inbuilt home clan labs that ultimately blew up most of the time. But now it's generally imported from Southeast Asia, China, Thailand, Vietnam, places like that.
And what kind of quantities are you seeing, Jamie? Are we talking huge quantities here?
Yeah. So we obviously get the shipments in. We've had them in like 300 kilograms before. When we're looking at like state base, we do get like in excess of 5, 10, 20 kilos at a time. But it all just depends. Like, we've had a lot of seizures, but then we'll have like 1 kilo. So it's all sporadic, really. But I'd say a kilo above is what we've been looking at. So.
Okay. Let's talk about patrol, because I just want to wrap my head around that. So, patrolling in Australia, do you carry firearms or no firearms?
Yeah, firearms. Yeah.
Okay, so firearms, all right. And then what does that look like? Are you doing it kind of like we do here in the States, where patrol officers have a zone and they're just driving around their zone waiting for that call for service? Or is it kind of like the fireman approach, where the officers at the station waiting for that call, that phone to ring, and then they go out? Or is it a combo?
So we, I guess we sort of look at our area of policing in the metro area similar to the counties and the different PDs. So we'll have the one agency on the one frequency with different channels, all using the same system, but there will be different districts where there will be, a hub of 100, 200 officers in that in that district. Within that district, there'll be smaller police stations where there'll be 20, 30, 40 people in a specific police station, and that district will all answer to the same radio, if that makes sense. So if there's a local police station, they'll cover a 20, 25 mile radius and everywhere around. And then if there is no one in that area, and unfortunately there may be a busy night for them, they'll get different people from that district to come over and assist them. But generally, they're all out on the road 24 hours a day, patrolling the streets, pulling people over, speaking, doing the community engagement stuff, and then responding to what we have as 000 calls, which is 911.
Okay. And then is it two-person cars, one-person cars?
Yeah.
It just depends.
Yeah, 2-person car. And our policing, it runs all front one centre. So we'll have one control centre. They've got different pods for the different districts, as Brandon said. So there'll be 2 people sat with one primary operator on the radio. So they'll be dispatching the jobs that come in. They'll shout up if there's a priority one. And then obviously if there's a car available, or if they can stop the job that they're doing and go and respond to that job, they will. And like Brandon said before, is if that we need to pull people from anywhere. I think that's the beauty of having a single police jurisdiction, is that if something's happening in one area and we need 1 million cars there, everyone will drop.
You could do it.
And get there. Because then all the radio operators, they sit in the same control centre, and they'll say, we need this, and we literally just coordinate a response to it. So I think it's the real benefit to having that. But yeah, 2 per car. We never send out single officers. The only one we would do would be an on-road supervisor, which would like piggyback to all the jobs to make sure everyone's all good. Occasionally we have an on-road inspector, and they'll go around to all the major jobs and just make sure everyone's all good and everything's responded to correctly.
Okay. And then do you have real-time operation centers where you're at in these cities where they're actually in an operational center and they can see where all the cars are?
Yeah, that's that control center.
So they can actually see where the cars are, which is incredible, very efficient,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
And then are you wearing body cameras?
Yes.
So you're wearing body camera, and they can pipe into the to the body camera
They
in
can
real
turn
time,
on.
and they
Yeah.
can see what's going on. And you guys are doing an amazing job. Are you in the drones now too? You have drones
Yeah.
going to calls?
There was a recent article, I guess you call it, or a recent announcement that there are going to be different drones stationed around the
Parts of
metro,
the state,
the metro area basically. And if there is a particular job in an area 50 miles away from the city, that there's a local drone to assist and act on remotely.
We also have so we have the ability to pursue vehicles and motorbikes. So I've noticed recently we've got a couple of drones that are sent out to the regional towns where an individual will be on a motorbike, and obviously it's not very safe for us to chase. So generally we don't chase a motorbike, but sending up that drone just to find out the location, not spook them and make them do anything that is highly dangerous, but follow exactly where they are and then send the officers to where they would then get on foot and be arrested.
And then I want to jump in here before I forget. Word on the street is that you might have body-worn cameras.
Yes, DEA is issuing body-worn cameras pursuant to DOJ policy. Tampa received our body-worn cameras yesterday.
All right. Well, welcome to the party.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they've limited the requirement to just 2 or 3 instances for us, which is the execution of a search warrant, pre-planned search warrant, or a pre-planned arrest, and or a buy-bust
Okay.
for us. So it'll be, I think it's very good. It'll be instrumental in protecting our officers and agents.
It's amazing. It's the best thing that we ever did, body-worn cameras. I mean, 99.99999% of the time, it just really shows what an amazing job the officers are doing. I know when I get complaints here and I look at the body-worn camera and we do the full investigation at the end and we find the officers did nothing wrong, I'll reclassify that complaint to a compliment from me, and those officers will now receive a compliment because the professionalism that we see is outstanding, and they deserve that. And I think you'll see that as you start to look at video, and then I'm sure you already know about that. Let's go back a little bit. Drones. Have there been any issues in Australia with respect to privacy as it relates to drones? Any pushback from anyone?
Our primary aviation authority has policies, procedures, legislation in relation to even law enforcement using drones. There are restrictions, so anytime we just have to be really careful with our restrictions and make sure when we are complying, so we don't lose our ability to progress, as the years progress. So we do manage our restrictions really strictly, but we do have many instances where we achieve our desired goal, whatever that goal may be in relation to, effecting an arrest or for officer safety during search warrants or pre-planned busts or traffic stops, or the list is endless.
The application of technology has just been an incredible officer safety component for us, and I'm sure for you, because now when we do search warrants, we execute those in homes. We basically break the doors down, the windows, and back in the day we would then follow, no longer. Now we send baby drones in the house, and they'll go through, and if need be, we'll send in a robot to go in and make sure everything's clear. Then I'm currently looking into getting a robot dog, which are amazing. The technology can speak through the dog, obviously see through the dog.
It's a little freaky though.
It is freaky. Well,
I've
very
seen a couple
intimidating.
of them online, and it's like
They're very intimidating. They're very intimidating. A bad guy could kick the dog, and the dog will just flip back right on its feet and back in the fight, whereas the robot would tip over and you're done.
Yeah.
A drone would come in, you could smack the drone down and destroy it.
and then go back up.
And this dog's ready to go back in. And there's another application. There's these special suits that they have that can go on these dogs. and you can use them for community policing. They look like they're all fuzzy
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah,
like jumping
right.
around,
Yeah,
but little
yeah.
do you know.
Like a little
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Terminator.
they're a Terminator underneath. But at the end of the day, the application of technology has really assisted us for officer safety. And I think we've learned over the course of the years, we take it a little slower, right? What's the rush? Why do we have to jump in that house? Let's make sure, we're moving slow and we're making sure our officers are safe as we enter. So it's been amazing. It's great to see that you guys are doing it. Are the drone pilots, are you subbing that out to another company or is that law enforcement?
No, they're embedded within our law enforcement air wing unit.
And
So-
all of our pilots, they're all with the West Australian Police. They're all employed by us. We have our police air wing that's separate.
That's awesome. You got a lot of money there. So that's nice.
We've got a big
Yeah.
area to cover. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, well, there's money.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So, Jamie, how many years on?
9 years.
9 years. And what is your favorite part in the 9 years? What is your favorite job, your favorite position in these 9 years?
Yeah, it's definitely the one that I'm doing now. So
Okay.
obviously at organised crime, I think like having that impact and that ability to invest that time for stuff that actually affects the state and the whole country, it really is the reason that I show up to work.
All right. And what's your aspirations?
So far, I'm happy to stay here.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, but definitely learning opportunities like this, anywhere that I can develop my career, help the agency to be that better investigator. Right now I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I'd like to go country again, more regional. So we have an area that we call the Kimberley, and it's literally red dirt and dust and not a whole lot out there, but it is such a unique policing environment up there.
All right. Brandon, same thing. How many years now?
12.
12 years. Favorite job. And I'm going to corner you. Don't pick this one.
Don't pick this one.
That is that is a politically correct answer. So I'm going to let you off the hook on that.
Yeah.
Don't pick this one. Boss is out in Australia. He loves what he's doing. What has been before this job? Obviously, this is your favorite job.
My
before
first job, which is when I left the academy, and it was just being introduced to the Blue family, seeing the teamwork, being involved in early on in a career that I knew I'd take until I retire, making new friends straight away. It was just such a warming experience. I was in the middle of the city or downtown, so that was interesting as well, and it's quite a vivid nightlife during the weekends. So interacting with people, drunk, sober, have a whole host of issues during whatever shift you're working any day of the week. And then my second favourite after that would be the job previous to the one I'm currently doing, which is a volume crime team in a local district, which is, again, one of the purest forms of community policing that I've been involved in. Just the impact in burglaries, robberies, stealings that impact the local community, and being able to locate, apprehend those offenders in a timely manner and achieve justice for those victims, and so they can sleep soundly at night is, the countless times that I've been involved an effective case or effective job where the victim has been incredibly satisfied is satisfying to me.
Yeah, it's the best part when the victims are made whole, or
Yeah.
as much as we can do it.
Yeah.
And what are your aspirations? Big picture, 10 years, 15 years, where are we at?
Well, I really enjoy my time now. I love what I do, and I love working with Jamie and other guys and girls in the office. I'll stay where I am for a decent amount of time, maybe move around internally in the narcotic space as well, and then maybe look at promotion in between now and 5 years.
And what's for Australia, what's the magic number for you all? Like in our business, the magic number is 25. I don't know why, but that's the magic number. What's the magic number where you're at?
We don't have a magic number. My dad's been in the job since he was 25. He's 62 now.
He's still on the job?
He's still on the job.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but his knees and hips are breaking, so he doesn't have many years left. So
What is he doing?
he's in a local crash office.
The traffic enforcement.
Traffic crash.
Is he in an is he literally in the office all the time, or is he on,
Yeah, he
on
go-
a beat in a car?
No, he goes out and does inquiries. So there'll be a crash that he has to investigate, and he'll do those inquiries out on the road, and he'll wear full body armor and kit and things like that. But He's not as agile as he used to be.
That's so.
You know, you just told him that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sorry,
Man. We'll edit that. So, I bet he's got great stories.
Yeah, amazing stories. Yeah, and that's probably the reason why I joined the job in the first place. He was a very busy young constable, and I looked at him coming home every night, and he was busy and beaten up and things like that. And it was, he's an inspiring guy to live with.
I'm inspired by him. We got to send him something. I want to meet him. That's inspiring.
Yeah, it's quite often we get officers that literally have done 20 years, and you're like, I just can't imagine having 20 years under my belt. Like, obviously, we'll get there, but there's a lot of officers out there. You're like, oh, yeah, I've been in the job for 20 years, and you're like, how? How are you still doing it? But yeah, we love it.
They're still doing, but it sounds like you have people that will do 40 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every now and then they'll push it to 45 when we have a recruit graduation. We'll see people retire and stuff in the same graduation ceremony, and they'll push 45 years sometimes.
That's amazing. That's
crazy.
Awesome. Mike, what's the deal, man? You're a boss. Favorite job, let me hear it.
So that's a double-edged sword. I get to enjoy the work of the guys and girls now, but I think the best thing was when I came on in Dallas. I was a DEA agent assigned to Dallas, Texas, and that's where I did my first 6+ years. And it's where you develop those partnerships, friendships, lifelong friends. You're out there on the street, and you're handling cases. You're doing investigations. What you originally signed up for. I remember, until this day, I still remember the book that they handed me when I went into DEA to apply. It had a picture of a gold badge, the international passport, diplomatic passport, a gun, and that was what enticed me, was being able to go from a patrolman in the city of San Antonio, where you responded to calls and you handed off your calls and all of your information to the next level detective, to then being able to actually go out, start a case, follow the case through successful prosecution, and or you learn from even those cases where you may not have been so successful. I think the best part about my career was breaking out in such a big city such as Dallas. I worked with Dallas PD daily, and all of the small police departments. It's a lot like Central Florida. You can turn right and go 5 miles, and you're in another jurisdiction. You've got to be able to work with those individuals, and it really was a ton of fun being able to sit in the car, hang out with your partner, and something's going to happen at 3 a.m., and you're getting called out at all hours of the night, but seeing the success like they're talking about, the arrests, the seizures, and then, taking those drugs off the street. That was the best part of my career, although I do love watching the guys and girls succeed now. It's just a different part. 25 years later, I've made it to 25 so
You
far.
got to live vicariously now.
So I do.
And it's interesting because now you've taken on the responsibility of making sure that everything is smooth for those that are currently doing the job that you were doing that you love so much.
Yeah.
And that says a lot, because when we go into supervision like this, it's not about us anymore. It's about the future, and make sure that they have the assets that they need, the benefits that they need, everything in their power. If they need to go to a jurisdiction that's different, how are we getting there? Or, do we have a memorandum of understanding with that jurisdiction so that they can make an arrest? I mean, that's really budgeting. Budgeting's another, man, I'm sure y'all don't look forward to that.
No.
I mean, enjoy what you're doing right now,
Exactly,
because the days of getting to come to work and just worrying about, hey, I'm going to go chase the bad guy. Now as a supervisor, it's, okay, what's our budget look like? What do the numbers look like? Okay, where are we going to put these numbers? I need more personnel. I'm sure you have the same issues over there, right? I'm sure
exactly.
You guys talk about, we need more people and we need an increase in pay. I mean, that's
Definitely.
usually, and retention, right? And no one's applying, right? So do you have any of those challenges, like people not applying in the numbers that they used to for your jobs?
I think in the whole of Australia, maybe the world, but everything post-COVID has changed it, and the difficulties with people seeking more working from home jobs as opposed to being out on the road every single day at all hours of the day and night. They are looking for maybe something with a similar pay, which maybe has a little bit more family time offered. So we do see general attrition, but I think it has increased since COVID came in.
What's the respect level over there for law enforcement? I know I have a friend from England. He works Scotland Yard, and sometimes the respect for law enforcement in London and in that area is just not very high, not very well respected. And some of the stories that he would tell me, and I know here after George Floyd, right before the height of or around COVID, all law enforcement first responders were heroes. And then after George Floyd, we had to rebuild that respect back up. And what's it like there? Did you see any issues? Did the George Floyd incident impact law enforcement in Australia?
I think it certainly opened up the community's eyes, but it also did the same for us. I think overall we're looked at in a positive light. As much as TV shows, kids will say the police this, the police that, and the first thing a father will say to a kid is don't do that or I'll call the police, or you don't want to get in trouble, or we'll be walking across and they'll be like, shh, don't arrest me. How many times I've heard that, honestly, I'd be rich if you paid me $1 every time I heard it.
Same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think as a whole, in the world, we're looked at in that light. But I think in Western Australia and Australia, specifically as well, is that we are looked in a positive light. And if you need help, that we're still the first people that everyone calls.
It's good to hear. I'm happy for y'all for that.
Thanks for listening to Chat with the Chief podcast with your host, Chief Rex Troche of the Sarasota Police Department. This wraps up part 1 of our 2-part episode with Detective Senior Constables Jamie Auhl and Brandon Jeffries from the Western Australia Police Force, and DEA Tampa Assistant Special Agent in Charge Mike Furgason. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us so you'll be notified when part 2 is released. Stay tuned for more conversations bringing you insights from the Sarasota Police Department and our partners around the world.